My favourite part about that was when she said, most of you are here to see Taylor, and the whole room collectively went, who?
Nocturnals represent.
You know, one of my favourite things about us having to wear masks all the time is when you actually take your mask off, you get this interesting experience of smelling a room that you've been in like a million times for the first time, again as if you're entering it for the first time. I might put this back on actually. Do you know, a friend of mine actually said to me recently-ish, he was like, you know Taylor, for how you look, you smell surprisingly good. Which is a weird thing to say to somebody, right? I don't really know if it's a compliment or an insult. There's another one that I don't know if it's an insult or a compliment. Is my girlfriend said to me she finds me more attractive when I have a beard, which is a kind of like roundabout way of saying, you know your face, the less I can see of it, the more I like it. She's actually hung this up on our bedroom door. Be kind to others. Please wear a face covering, Taylor. I tell you what though, I snore so badly, the only thing she wants to cover my face with in the bedroom is a pillow. Alright, you guys are not there for the dark stuff, but that's okay. Because there was a follow-up line to that, but I'm not going to say it. You want to say it? Yeah. Okay, so I told her that joke, but the only thing she'd change is she said she'd use a clear plastic bag because I have a pretty face. You win some, you lose some, right? Yeah, she should be the one up here, not me. So lockdown. We did some lockdown. I don't really have many jokes about lockdown because I don't know if you can tell, but my life changed very little. You know when we all went for our like government mandated walk, and you'd see people out on the street and they just have that look on their face like, I'm going to talk to this guy. And for me, that was just the worst thing ever, but it was great because I could have an excuse to basically tell them to fuck off when they were going to talk to me in public. So I really enjoyed that. Sometimes it wouldn't work, but they would kind of continue, and then you just start coughing, and they're like, I'm going to peace out of this conversation. We all watch those things, right? The Jacinda and Dr. Bloomfield, those like daily updates with how many COVID cases we had. You guys all remember watching those?
Yeah.
You know, I actually never watched them. Let me finish. I used to just go to YouTube and I would look at the thumbnail and then I would just kind of see how stressed they looked on the thumbnail. Like, you know, if Jacinda was doing this, probably not a good day for COVID cases, right? I have some friends that were in Japan, and you know how we had the COVID tracer app and like we were all social distancing and stuff. They didn't have that over there. They were kind of just left to it, like, oh, you guys figure this out. And I got a friend who owns a bar over there, and he said what they were doing is they made an account for their bar on this chat app, like WhatsApp or something, and people would message them, say like, how many people have you got in the bar? Have you got enough space for us? And my friend that was living over there was like, I never thought I'd get to the stage of life where I had to be sending these like 2 a.m. booty call messages to my favorite bar. Just at 2 a.m. like, hey, you up right now? And then when they don't reply, you send something really desperate like, I wish I could be inside you right now. They created a vaccine, didn't they? That was the big thing. And do you remember when the campaign was get it to 90%? That was like the whole thing. Which is a very Kiwi sort of attitude to it. Like, not 100%, like 90, should be right, you know, just somewhere in the vicinity of 100 and everybody will be fine. And it took us a while to get there, didn't it? We were kind of hovering around 60% for a while. And I had this, I wish they'd done this, but it never. Do you guys remember when the Australians had that bushfire, like right at the start of the pandemic? And there was that woman, I think her name was Caitlin Ward. Do you guys remember what she did? She raised $700,000 for the Australian bushfires by sending a naked photo of herself to anybody that donated over $10. We should have got Mrs. Ward over here to do something like that. Give her a government subsidy or something like that. We would have been at like 240% vaccinated. People are up to dose like 7 or something like that. When the hand sanitizer went all kind of weird. Does anybody else remember? Like it went slimy. Does anyone else? Was it just me that was noticing that?
The one that was that.
Even now, is it still rough? Oh, geez, okay, I've got a pretty good batch in my little can over there. I don't know what happened. They must, like, Big Sanny must be stepping on it with something, right? Taking something out of the cocaine drug dealer's handbook there. Yeah, they're watering it. I don't, like, does it feel like saliva to anyone else, or is it just like a little bit, right? We got those PCR tests as well. Raise your hand, or give us a little cheer if you've had one of the up the nose tests before. Very, very like weak hand raises there. It's very Christchurch. Like the first couple, you get really hurt. Like we have so many for stand-up. We got to get them like pretty much every week for traveling around and stuff. And for me, they really hurt in the beginning. But then after a few, you kind of just go numb to it, and like, you know, I think it's going to start feeling good soon. I've been asking them at Orchard Road to stick 3 up there, just so that I can feel something. One for Jacinda, one for Dr. Bloomfield, and one for me. There was this interesting phase. Do you remember when the whole, like, are you vaccinated or not? It became like a whole thing, like it was a real divide in the community. And if you were on any of the dating apps, like Tinder and stuff like that, people would have a bunch of emojis for how many vaccinations they'd had. And then you'd see some profiles that would have no emojis, but they'd have this big long spiel of things about how they're like a creative and a spiritualist and a free thinker and anarchist and all this. And you're just reading it going, you are definitely unvaccinated. You're dodging the question, friend. The vaccine passports that we had? Mm-hmm. Yeah, who's happy to see them go? Woo! Interesting. Who misses them? I really miss them, to be honest. Yeah, one person has. The reason I miss them, now I'm not an anti-vaxxer, I should make this clear at the start, but I used to pretend to be one when I didn't want to go to something that somebody has invited me to. Like, don't get me wrong, if it was like going to the movies with an attractive lady or something, like I've got my 2 shots, I got my vax passport here, I got my booster booked in, you know, I'm sweet as. But if I got invited to like a funeral, or like a high school reunion, or like a distant relative's birthday party, then suddenly I change my tune and I'm like, oh, you know, I just don't think we know enough about what's inside it. I really trust my immune system to keep me safe here. I think we just got to stop this discrimination and open our hearts. The term I came up with for this, whenever people would ask me if I'm vaccinated or not, is I would say I'm vax fluid. What else we got? So I did get vaccinated in the end, and this is how much of a, like, I just can't stop the comedy thing, because the guy stuck the needle into my arm, and I went, hello, there it is. And I got like a big laugh out of the guy, and I was like, all right, I'm killing him, I'm destroying the room right now. And then he says to me, okay, your vaccination's done, go and sit in the waiting room, and let us know if you have any side effects. And first of all, it was like, they don't actually tell you what side effects to watch for. Like, they just say, oh, if you start to feel strange, and you're like, man, I've been feeling strange for like 30 years now. I went to the movie theatre. You remember we had that weird eye of the storm gap where like we thought everything was cool, and then it got way worse, like real quick. I went to the movies in this time, and there was an announcement that went on before the movie started, and it said, Kia ora, New Zealand. Here's 3 things we're doing to keep you safe during the pandemic. Number 1, we're washing high traffic areas of the cinema more regularly. Number 2, please book your tickets and snacks using the app. Number 3, please take your rubbish with you when you leave the cinema. And if you're like me, you're listening to this list and you're like, well, that's one thing you're doing. And then just 2 things you want us to do. And you're trying to claim that as 3 things you're doing to keep us safe. So ladies in the crowd tonight, can you imagine if your man came home one night and he was just like, all right, love, Got a new 3-step plan in place to make me a more sensitive and caring lover and to make sure you're fully satisfied at the end of the night. Step number 1, we're going to have sex as normal, nothing different. Step number 2, I have bought you a vibrator. Please use this on yourself. Step number 3, please take all your rubbish with you when you leave. I thought that you guys know what's going on. You guys all know what a QR code is now? So I'm a graphic designer by trade, and we've been trying to make QR codes happen for like the last 10 years, but it's never really caught on until recently. Yeah, man, all it takes is a global pandemic and people finally figure it out. Like, I'm aware that me saying that's a silver lining, you know, it's like after what? Countless deaths, a serious divide in our community, and probably irreversible damage to our economy. Silver lining, people know how to use a QR code now. It'd be a bit like me talking to a former heroin addict and he's like, well, yeah, you know, after the loss of my home, my job, and my complete and utter alienation from my friends and family, the one takeaway from me doing heroin is I learned how to tie a tourniquet around my arm really good. I've been wanting to know how to do that for years, but I was too shy to ask. So for this next joke, I'm going to need my volunteer. Jimmy, would you mind, could you guys give a round of applause to Jimmy? This is a routine I used to do before COVID. You're going to see why it doesn't work anymore. So if you could just stand there, Jimmy, that'd be awesome. I'm often not good with people. I misjudge how close I am with people emotionally. And a woman was leaving my work and she was going around the office and giving some people handshakes and some people hugs. And I figured, oh, we're not that close, we'll probably just be a handshake. And then as it turns out, she went in for a hug. So Jimmy, you could just put your hands out like you're going in for a hug. I went in for a handshake and we sort of just met in the middle like this. Which is not a good start. Luckily, she saw what was happening and she took my hand, and then we just shook hands at like this distance. Now, a normal handshake is at about this difference, and that's very comfortable, isn't it, Jimmy? From here, it's not good. So thank you very much, Jimmy, for your help. You can see why I used to close shows by talking about this routine, and you can see why I can't do it anymore, because we have a disease that literally is do not get close to people. So thanks God, you know, like I finally get a good routine I can close shows with, and he's like, nah, fuck you, it's too good, you can have something. Because every time I brought someone on stage, something funny happened every single time. The first time it happened, when I stuck my hand into the guy's chest, he just went, oh. Which was great. Another time I did the handshake thing with him, and then as I'm kind of, hey, thanks for coming up, he leans in and he's like, that was the most intimate I've been with anyone in a long time. That'd help, right? And then my favorite time that happened is I brought a guy on stage who didn't say a word to me. He just kind of walked up and was looking at me. He went through with the whole handshake thing. We said, hey, thanks, and he went and sat back down. And then he said something in Russian to the woman that he was sitting with, and it turned out he didn't speak English. And so I said, oh, did he not understand what any of that was there? Like, I just brought him on stage and like shook his hand really close and said, hey, cheers, and sent him back to his seat. She's like, yeah, pretty much. And so I said, well, what did he say to you when he got back off stage? And she said, he said to me, that man smells a lot better than he looks. That's pretty much all the end of the COVID stuff. One last thing I want to say before we let you go is please remember to take all your rubbish with you when you leave the country. Thanks everyone, I've been Taylor Ruddle.
Tell me a little bit about that show.
So what we're doing is people consume media so quickly nowadays on things like Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. We have a theory that people would like to see stuff from stand-up comedians more often. So rather than releasing an hour special every 2 years, we're planning on doing a 15 to 20 minute special 3 or 4 times a year. I think people are going to really like it, and this is the first attempt at doing one of those, so we'll see how it goes. The bit about being talked to by people, it's kind of like, they don't relate to that obviously, but
every day in Christchurch.
People try to talk to you, yeah.
Or not talk to me.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my favourite lines is the lockdown bit, and you're like, oh, this motherfucker's going to talk to me.
Well, like, dude, so I kind of forgot, like, I was going to do more if they were into it, but they weren't, so, but like, the gist of the conversation is then saying to me, oh, lockdown, innit? And me going, oh, yeah.